Thank you for listening to the show on Really Big Something Channel. May 14th, 2018.
The Cooner Report is powered by Kelly Financial Services. Cleaning up your financial bull. Get the peace of mind that you deserve at Kelly Financial Services.
Should Trump have moved the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem? My friends, it is now basically all-out war on the border between Gaza and Israel, as today, Israel now celebrating its 70th anniversary as a sovereign independent nation, is now essentially again facing a huge, massive Palestinian uprising. And as I speak to you now, my friends, Javanka is now in Jerusalem, Jared Kushner, Ivanka Trump, along with Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin, to commemorate the official opening of the U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem. It previously was, as you know, in Tel Aviv. There was a consulate in Jerusalem. However, Trump announced months ago he was going to fulfill his campaign promise. Jerusalem is the capital of Israel. Jerusalem, as a sovereign nation, has the right to determine its own capital. And I'm going to recognize reality, which is that not Tel Aviv, but Jerusalem is the capital of the Jewish state and of the state of Israel. And so today, Bibi Netanyahu, many dignitaries were there, enthusiastic, wildly applauding the official opening of the U.S. Embassy, which, by the way, many had predicted would be taking years instead of months. Trump again delivered on time and under budget. And yet this time, with the historic opening of the U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem, the Palestinians are now waging another mother of all intifadas. 35,000 Palestinian protesters are now targeting 12 key posts along the border between Gaza and Israel. According now to the Israeli intelligence sources, Israeli intelligence is now claiming that several Palestinians tried to detonate an improvised explosive device seeking to kill several Israeli troops. However, these terrorists were shot dead. They are now dropping gas canisters. They're trying to disperse the protesters. The protesters are defiant. They refuse to leave. They are shouting death to Israel, death to America. They are throwing rocks, projectiles, anything that they can do. And so in response, the Israeli military has now, some using live bullets, other using rubber bullets, have now tried to disperse the massive protests. So far, 43 Palestinians in Gaza dead. Over 1,300 wounded. The Middle East is exploding. The Arab League is now calling for an emergency session this Wednesday, saying that they're calling the Israeli actions against the Palestinians a crime against humanity and an atrocity. They are also saying that the move from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem to open the U.S. Embassy in the eyes of the Arab world is quote-unquote illegal. Al-Qaeda, their top henchman, their top chief, al-Zawahiri, has now called for a jihad against American targets in America itself for the impunity of opening the embassy in Jerusalem. Turkey, of all countries, supposedly a NATO ally, Erdogan, its leader, has now come out and vowed that the United States is a problem in the Middle East and no longer the solution, that it can no longer be a mediator between the Israelis and the Palestinians because they have tipped the scales, or we have, in favor of the Jews. So you now have the Turks calling for resistance to America. Iran is now calling for global resistance to Israel and to America in the wake of this decision to open the embassy in Jerusalem. The Middle East is boiling. Palestinians and Israelis are now at each other's throats. And, you know, I said this to Jared in our pre-show meeting. You know, what these pictures, and they really are stunning pictures, of 35,000 protesters, many of them wearing black, many of them chanting death to America, many of them hurling rocks, projectiles, you name it, bottles at Israeli troops. And then, of course, the response from the Israeli forces, with now, as I said, 43 dead, over 1,000 wounded. It really shows you, as clearly as any picture can show you, how much the Arabs of the Middle East, the Muslim Arabs of the Middle East, despise and hate Israel. How much they despise and hate the Jews. For in the end, what are we talking about? We're talking about a capital that was the historic capital of the Jewish people going back thousands of years, that is currently the capital of the state of Israel. And all Trump did, correct me if I'm wrong, was recognize reality. It would be like, you know, we're going to move, I don't know, we're going to move our embassy to Paris. We're going to move our embassy to London. We're going to move our embassy to Berlin. Well, yeah, okay. That's the capital of those countries. Now, the fact that the Palestinians claim East Jerusalem as a future capital for their state, well, Trump himself has openly said, we're not prejudging that. That's between the Israelis and the Palestinians to decide in a peace process. But the fact of the matter is, Jerusalem was the capital of Israel, Jerusalem is the capital of Israel, and Jerusalem will be the capital of Israel. And so what you're really seeing is something else. What you're seeing now is the deep loathing, hatred, and anti-Semitism that is prevalent across the entire Middle East when it comes to the Jews, the Jewish people, and the state of Israel. They are not protesting Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. What they are protesting is the fact that Jerusalem exists as the capital of the Jewish people. And this is why they want ultimately Jerusalem to be under Palestinian occupation, just as they want Israel ultimately to be under Arab-Palestinian conquest and opposition. This is why Hamas calls for the utter annihilation of the state of Israel. This is why Hamas has said it is now waging a jihad and holy war against the state of Israel. This is why Iran says it wants to annihilate the state of Israel. This is why Turkey calls eventually for Israel to be replaced by Palestinian Arabs. In other words, the Middle East does not want Israel as an outpost of the West, as an ally of America, and as a homeland for the Jews. Because ultimately, all non-Muslims must be purged from the Middle East. That is their ultimate goal. And this is why for them today is a day that will go down in infamy. And what is to me, my friends, even more despicable is Turkey. Turkey, which is an ally of NATO. We are pledged to defend the Turks in case they're ever attacked or invaded by any other country. And this is how you pay us back? You pay us back by calling us the problem in the Middle East? By saying we have no business in the Middle East? That somehow we are the enemy in the Middle East? My friends, enough is enough. It's time for Turkey to be kicked out of NATO. It is time for us to tell the Middle East and the Muslims once and for all, not only is Jerusalem the eternal capital of Israel, the Jews have the right to self-determination. The Jews have the right to their own independent state. The Jews have the right to determine their own destiny and the right to defend themselves. And we will side with Israel no matter what, because in the end, the Middle East doesn't just belong to the Muslims. It belongs to the Christians and, yes, the Jews. And my question now to you is this. Do you support Trump's decision to move the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem and recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, or was it a huge mistake? 617-266-6868. Your calls next. 12:20 here on the great WRKO. Okay, my friends, all hell is breaking loose right now in Gaza along the border with Israel. 35,000, maybe even now 40,000 protesters rampaging, burning tires, throwing rocks, throwing projectiles, bottles, whatever they can get their hands on. Hamas terrorists have sought to blow up IEDs at certain military posts along the border. They are enraged at the opening of the U.S. Embassy today. Trump has made it official. The U.S. Embassy in the capital of Israel, Jerusalem. This has been denounced not just by the Palestinians, but by the entire Muslim Middle East, the entire Arab world. They say that this is a crime they will never forget. Iran is calling for global resistance. Turkey, our own NATO ally, is calling for the Middle East now to stand up to America, and the Palestinians are now vowing days of rage. In response, the Israeli military has fired on some of these rampaging protesters. 43 confirmed dead, 1,300 wounded. Already now, many European governments are claiming, along with Amnesty International, that the Israeli forces committed, quote unquote, atrocities and war crimes. It's bash Israel, bash the United States, nonstop. And so the Kelly Financial poll question of the day: should President Trump have moved the embassy to Jerusalem? In other words, was it worth it? Is all this worth it? If you believe he should have moved the embassy to Jerusalem, A, yes, A. And I'm a big A. I think the Jews have the right to their own capital and to determine their own destiny. If you believe the answer is no, Jeff, it's not worth it, then no, B. You can vote at the Cooner Report on my Twitter page, KUHNER at the Cooner Report, or you can vote online, WRKO.com/Cooner, KUHNER. Lines are loaded. Charles in Arlington, you're up first. Go ahead, Charles.
Oh, nice to talk with you, Mr. Cooner.
Hi, Charles.
I just wanted to say, first of all, in response to your opening monologue, certainly I support the movement of the capital to Jerusalem. After all, it's mentioned throughout the Old Testament and the New Testament. I mean, it seems to be obvious. But a couple of other things I wanted to mention. What I'm concerned about, even as much this seems strange, as Mr. President Trump will meet with Kim Jong-un and so forth, I'm concerned about what Mr. Mueller is going to do. I'm just afraid, and I've listened to Mark Levin, I'm just afraid that Mueller is going to do everything he can, plus his staff, to do everything he can to throw the president out. And I just don't know what we can do to rein in Mr. Mueller.
Charles, do me a favor.
He sounds to me, what it reminds me of a little bit, and maybe I'm exaggerating, in reverse in some ways, the Moscow Purge trial of the 1930s.
Yes.
Only this time you have the deep state going after the currently legitimately elected president
of the United States. No, Charles, look, do me a favor. Listen at 105, because the deep state now is actually in deep trouble. There is a bombshell story brewing. I am telling you, this story is going to blow the deep state sky high. If I were Mueller, I would wrap this thing up very fast, because the FBI now is in big, and I mean big trouble. So trust me, you don't want to miss it, but I don't want to get off topic. Look, to me, it's very simple. I know you can quote the Old Testament. I know you can quote the New Testament, and you can say this goes back thousands of years. To me, I don't want to go back thousands of years. You don't even need to get biblical about this. Jerusalem is the capital of Israel. just the way Washington is the capital of America, or London is the capital of Britain, or Ottawa is the capital of Canada, and we have the right to move our embassy to the capital of the state of Israel. Now, this is for Israel to determine, not for anybody else. If the Palestinians claim East Jerusalem, and that's their right, I mean, they have the right to claim whatever they want to claim, that is something to be worked out in a peace deal with the Israeli government. But what you don't do is start burning and tearing down absolutely everything, acting like a bunch of savages, throwing rocks, bottles, urine, explosive devices, bombs, because you don't like the policies of the Israeli government, or in this case, the American government. It's very simple. Really, honestly, for the Palestinians, it's very simple. Renounce terrorism, renounce eradicating or annihilating Israel off the face of the earth, go to the negotiating table, and try to negotiate an independent Palestinian state. But they don't want peaceful negotiation, because what you're seeing now is the true face of the Middle East. It's jihad, jihad, jihad. It's hatred for the Jews and hatred for the Israelis. And they will not stop until either one side wins or the other side loses. It's so obvious now. You want to see pure anti-Semitic hatred? It's on display, right on television. Steve in his truck. Go ahead, Steve.
Good afternoon, Jeff.
Hi.
Jeff, listen, any moron that throws a rock at a guy with a gun is not too bright. I mean, if that's the way they want to fight, they're going to lose a lot more than 49 people. And as far as Turkey goes, Jeff, we give them a lot of money. Stop giving these people our money. If they don't like us, they don't want us in there, don't take our money. I don't understand this. President Trump said this, when he first got elected. We got to stop giving terrorists our money to come back and kill us. If Turkey doesn't want us defending them, listen, we pull out of there, tell Turkey to defend themselves. And then when somebody attacks them, they'll be crying for us to come back.
Bingo.
And you tell them no.
Bingo. Steve, I'm with you. Steve, listen, look, I'm with you. And look, I don't want to, revisit history. Forgive me. But look at how the Turks treated the Greeks, the Christian Greeks, for hundreds of years. What they did to the Balkans, to the Serbs, to the Montenegrins, to the Croatians. I could go on. The Armenians. Over 1.5 million Armenians slaughtered in the first genocide of the 20th century. Never mind. There is not one Christian left in Turkey. There is not one Jew left in Turkey. They have religiously cleansed their country. And we still defend them? Fine, okay, fine. They're part of NATO. But then you turn around and vilify us? Hey. If I were Trump, I'd give Erdogan a call right now and say, Mr. Prime Minister, tough guy. Very simple. You want all our foreign aid, or you want to side with the Palestinians? Take your pick. You want to side with the Palestinians? Our aid is gone, and we're going to kick you out of NATO. And then you can be a tough guy on your own. I am tired of these people taking money on one hand and stabbing us in the back with the other. Eric in the great state of Utah. Eric, welcome.
Oh, Snap, am I on?
Yes, Snap, you are on, Eric.
Oh, hey, Jeff.
Eric, I love you guys out there in Utah. No, really. Like, even the way you guys swear is so wholesome. Like, seriously, like Snap.
Oh, you really want me to go full Salem Mouth on you?
Well, I mean, go full Utah on me. Diggity dog. Diggity dog.
No, dude, that's just me. But anyway, I digress, just like how you have your catchphrase, I'll let that go. But those, the protesters that you were mentioning, they sound a lot like Antifa, don't they? I mean, almost no difference, but hey, I don't mean to digress on that, but wow.
No, Eric, you're completely right. They do look like Antifa. And that's what I mean. Look at the connection between the radical left and radical Islam. They start to look alike, talk alike, sound the same, act the same. You know why? That's why they love each other.
So it must be a duck.
You're right. No, you're completely right, Eric. And
anyway, it's just a remark about the whole Trump recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of Israel.
Yes.
And, that's an awesome thing because seriously, the Jews just cannot catch a break. Why do so many people have such hatred of them? And the way I look at them, on the other hand, you cannot ask for a more... Okay, pardon me, I'm going to kind of lighten things up a little bit because we could use a lighten up mood, right? But if you want a group of people that have a lot of faith, it's got to be the Jews. You know why?
Because all the people who hate them?
No. I mean, if let's say the stories of the Testament or Bible, I forgot which was which, but that if the stories are true, that they followed Moses through the desert for 40 years with no map. Think about that.
Okay. No, Eric, I was going to go something different. I was going to say, how would the Mormons like it in Utah if, I don't know, Salt Lake City is the capital of Utah. And we're like, well, yeah, Salt Lake City is the capital of Utah. No. But we're going to recognize it now as the capital of Utah. And everybody starts burning the tires, throwing rocks, throwing bottles. How would the Mormons of Utah feel? They wouldn't like it now, would they? Okay, my friends, a lot more to talk about. I'll continue to take your call, 617-266-6868. Officials are touting the new American embassy in Jerusalem. Evan Heidenrich is in the WRKO newsroom. Take it away, Evan.
Thank you for listening to the show on Really Big Something Channel.
1237 here on the great WRKO. Jeff Cooner, Boston's bulldozer, cleaning up the liberal bull. Okay, my friends, join Relay for Life and help the American Cancer Society fund cancer research, free rides to chemo, free places to stay near hospitals. Register or donate today at relayforlife.org. You want to see a little preview of what's to come? Listen now to this. So, as you have an intifada, an uprising essentially taking place along the entire Gaza Strip with the border with Israel, spearheaded obviously by the terrorist group that runs Gaza, Hamas, 35,000, now maybe 40,000 Palestinians raging, protesting, hurling rocks, projectiles, burning tires, chanting death to Israel, death to the Jews, death to America. With now Israeli troops being forced to respond, 43 Palestinians dead, 1,300 wounded, the Middle East boiling. As all of this is happening, over what? Over what? Because Trump fulfilled what many other presidents had vowed, which was to officially recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and to move our embassy there. And today it's been officially opened. And because of just recognizing reality, this has now led to bloodshed. And now the Middle East basically almost on the verge of war. And as all of this is going on, where is Mittens? Where is Mitt Romney? Well, as you know, Romney is now vying to be the next senator, replacing Orrin Hatch, to be the next Republican senator from Utah. He is already auditioning for his role to be the next John McCain, to be the next McManiac, the leading never-Trump Republican in the Senate. You don't believe me? So you've got McCain, or McStain, as some like to call him, McManiac, basically on his deathbed, and Romney saying, whoa, now's my chance to ingratiate myself with the mainstream media. So, a Baptist minister based in Dallas by the name of Robert Jeffress was one of the invited leaders, religious leaders, that spoke today at the ceremony, the celebration in Israel, in Jerusalem, of the official opening of the U.S. Embassy. And who does Mittens attack? Is he attacking Hamas? Is he attacking the Palestinians? Is he attacking Turkey? Is he attacking the Islamists who are screaming death to the Jews and death to Israel? No. He slams President Trump for having chosen this supposed bigoted pastor for being one of the people who participates in the Jerusalem embassy prayer. And why? Because according to Mittens, this prominent Baptist minister, Reverend Jeffress, is a quote-unquote religious bigot. In particular, he's been overly critical of Islam. He says he's been overly critical of Mormons. And he's also been very critical about Jews. Well, what did he say that was so horrible about the Jewish people? Well, like many evangelicals and frankly many Christians, and Netanyahu knows this, and all the Jewish leaders who invited him know this, he's a Christian. So he said once in 2011, I believe salvation goes through Christ alone. In other words, you want eternal salvation in heaven as a Christian, as an evangelical, I believe you have to embrace Jesus Christ. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh, the Islamophobia, the anti-Mormonism. Oh my God, the anti-Semitism. Oh my God. Oh my. In other words, he's a Christian. I mean, he's an evangelical Christian. He's just saying what evangelical Christians believe, what frankly many Christians believe. So I want you to think about how insane this is. Here you have a Baptist minister who is staunchly pro-Israel, who has been condemning and fighting anti-Semitism in the United States and around Europe and around the Middle East his entire career, who was personally asked to attend, not just by Trump, but by Netanyahu and many of the leaders in Israel. They know his fundamental theological beliefs. Yes, in the end of days, everybody will convert to Christianity. That's what he hopes. That's what the Bible teaches. We're not talking end of days. We're talking today. We're talking now. So, hold on. You mean to tell me that Bibi Netanyahu and everybody in Israel, all the leadership that invited him to speak, they don't know anti-Semitism, but Mitt Romney does? Suddenly, what? They would invite an anti-Semite to speak at this historic occasion, as Netanyahu put it, one of the greatest days in the history of the Jewish people. You don't think they vetted this guy? You don't think they know this guy? All Romney is doing is trying to score points with the mainstream media and use this occasion to stick it and stick it and stick it to President Trump. He wants to be a gadfly. He wants to get his profile pieces in the New York Times and the Washington Post and be a regular on CNN. That's why he's running for office. In other words, he's not just a loser. He's a sore loser. Trump won, he didn't. And now he wants to be McCain 2.0. More with your calls next.
WRKO.
1248 here on the great WRKO. Okay, the death toll now is 52 dead in Gaza and climbing, 1,300 wounded. Let me ask you, do you support President Trump's decision to move the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem? Today, historic day in Israel. The U.S. Embassy has been opened. It is the 70th anniversary of the birth of Israel. And now the Palestinians and the Arabs around the Middle East are in a massive intifada uprising. They are vowing days of rage. 617-266-6868. Andy in Nebraska, you're up next. Thanks for holding and welcome.
Dobry din, Jeff.
Andy, how are you, my friend?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
Good, good.
So you know my girlfriend's Russian, right? And they've had their Islam problem also. I'm just going to quote something she said. Appeasement is the move of a suicidal nation. We got to stop giving a damn what these rabble-rousing, inbred, mental patient rats think. This is insanity. This is insanity. And if I could talk today.
So, Andy, so you're basically saying, look, let the Palestinians rage, let them burn tires, let them throw bombs, let them throw cocktails, Molotov cocktails, rocks, whatever. Apparently there were some IED devices they tried to detonate. That's why the Israeli Defense Forces had to unleash gunfire. In other words, let them rage, rage, rage. The fact of the matter is Israel exists, and Israel will never be wiped out because they will fight and they will win.
Exactly. If they're so angry about that, let them just go into gunfire. I mean, I'm so sick of this.
Andy, why do you think, and thank you for that call. Look, I want to ask all of you this, in all seriousness. Why don't the Palestinians just say, look, we want to negotiate. We want an independent Palestinian state. You know essentially what our demands are. Gaza, the West Bank, we'd like to have maybe East Jerusalem as the capital. Let's sit down and cut a deal. I mean, really, how hard is that? How hard is that? And instead, you have Hamas, which in its own constitution calls for Israel to be wiped off the face of the earth. You have the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank, which is almost no less any better. They're also supporting terrorism and calling for Israel to be destroyed. And you have the entire Middle East basically saying, no Jerusalem, no Israel, there will never be peace. So are we just to conclude in the end, and this is the conclusion I've come to, that there will never be peace between the Muslims and the Jews? That the Muslims will never accept a Jewish homeland? Whether it's half of Jerusalem, all of Jerusalem, a quarter of Jerusalem, it doesn't matter. That the Jews, for the Muslim Arabs, and not just the Muslim Arabs, the Muslim Middle East, the Iranians as well, the Persians, that they are a foreign entity on Islamic land. And no matter what you say, no matter how you try to negotiate or reason with them, in the end, they want to annihilate the Jews because they're Jewish. Agree? Disagree? Jerry on the Cape, you're up next. Go ahead, Jerry. Comrade, how you are, my friend?
Give me the phone, man. Hey, Kunaman, you know how Obama's all upset about the whole Iran thing, with the Muslims?
Yes.
I sent him a tweet over the weekend. If you like your legacy, you can keep your legacy. Period. P.S. I got all the hope I need, and you can keep the change. Jeff?
Yes, Jerry.
Let's cut through the chase here. What this is really all about for the Israelites, for Christians, and for the Muslims is the Temple Mount. That's one of the main points.
Now, Jerry, hold on. What do you think? I'm just curious. I mean, I understand the Jewish claim, obviously, to the Temple Mount. What do you make of the Muslim claim to the Temple Mount?
The Mahdi again. The Mahdi. The
coming of the 12th Imam, the Muslim Christ, and he will descend upon the Temple Mount.
In the Battle of Armageddon will take place.
So you're saying that's why for the Muslims they have to seize control of the Temple Mount?
Jeff, if the Temple Mount were in Tel Aviv, they'd want to go there and take it. They wouldn't want Tel Aviv to be the capital of Israel. If it were anywhere in Israel, no matter where it was located, that's what it boils down to. Jeff, can I say something about the deep state?
Yes.
Tweet that I saw this weekend that really, really got me. You know who Hassan Jabari Ansari is?
No.
He is Mohammed Javad Zarif's senior advisor.
Okay.
He's the assistant prime minister. And I quote, if Europeans stop trading with Iran...
Yes.
If Europeans...
Jerry, don't blow it. Don't blow it. You're a genius. Don't blow it. Thank you, my friend.
You have a good one.
Good one, because I was in my mind, I'm saying Jerry's going to make his point, and I'm going to throw one more log on the fire. Jerry was about to announce the log. All right, here it is. Here it is. You want to know why Jean-Francois Kerry and Ben Rhodes and so many American politicians have been ferociously denouncing Trump's decision to rip up the Iran nuclear deal, and why the Europeans are also absolutely irate and ballistic? Listen to this, okay? This comes from Iran's foreign ministry spokesman, Hassan Jabari Ansari. And what he said was, speaking on behalf of the entire Iranian regime, that if Western officials this week, if they do not start putting pressure on the Trump administration to rescind its decision, and if the Europeans decide to pull out of the Iran nuclear deal as well, then he is going to blow the whistle, according to him, on everybody who took bribes in the Western world. All Western politicians, in his words, that took bribes in order to get the Iran nuclear deal passed. Quote, this is from, as he mentioned, Iran's foreign minister, Zarif's senior advisor. Quote, if you, Rahman Ghavami, if Europeans stop trading with Iran and don't put pressure on the U.S., then we will reveal which Western politicians and how much money they had received during nuclear negotiations to make hashtag Iran deal happen. The Iranians are openly telling us your politicians were on the freaking take. When we made this deal with you, you gave us over $100 billion, $2 billion in cash, and we were bribing politicians in France, in England, in Germany, but especially in the good old US of A. And if you guys think you're going to rip up this nuclear deal and sink our economy, you know what? We're going to out every single one of them. I will bet you the best steak at the Hanover Street Chop House, dollars to donuts, okay? Jean-Francois Kerry or one of his, in-laws or children or some Kerry family member was taking money from the mullahs. How much you want to bet? How much you want to bet? Ben Rhodes, who created an echo chamber on behalf of this deal, how much you want to bet he was on the take? And I wouldn't be surprised if Barack Hussein Obama, the dear leader, decided to wet his beak a little bit. Just a little. Just to get a little taste. Mike in Woburn. Go ahead, Mike.
Hey, Jeff, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you, Mike?
Good. Just a little a trail, a residue of evil, I would call it. Barack Hussein Obama. If you just look at just four countries, Egypt, he put Morsi in, caused all type of trouble when he got in, started killing Christians. Iraq, ISIS came to life. Iran, the nuke deal, and what you just talked about, the bribes. In Turkey, when they had the coup, I think it was the last year of Barack Hussein Obama's term. They had a coup, and I told my wife, I said, whichever person Obama's for, that's the bad guy. And I said, and he was against the coup, so I said the guy that's in is the bad guy, and the coup is on the right side. And eventually, history proves that it's true, because you look at the leader, the prime minister of Iraq, Erdogan. He's Turkey. He's just showing his true colors. And it just, if you look at the guy's history, Barack Hussein Obama, I don't know why he's not mentioned more and more and more. This guy's residue is all over the Middle East, causing all this stuff.
Bingo.
He's put the last day, just one more comment, the last day before he got out, he sent $128 million cash. The last day before Trump got inaugurated, he sent $128 million to the Palestinians. The last day he was president.
Mike, you're dead on. Look, who was rabidly anti-Israel for 8 years? Obama. Who nuked up the mullahs in Iran? Obama. Who backed the Palestinians every step of the way? Obama. Who emboldened and empowered Turkey to become Islamist? Obama. Who backed the Arab Spring? Obama. I could go on. He was the best friend the Muslim world and the Islamists ever had. You know why? Because at his core, Obama was and is a cultural Muslim. Period. Okay, my friends. President Trump now says it is time to officially recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital. Stay with us. Evan Heidenrich is in the RKO newsroom with the latest.